This is David, you're watching Btekt. Welcome to another video. This one is sponsored by Direct Mobiles. For the best mobile deals, check out directmobiles.co.uk. And in this video, I'm going to take you through the camera system of the new Huawei P40 Pro. It really is a fantastic camera. I'm having a lot of fun using it, but it does have so many different features. If you're looking to pick up a P40 Pro, then definitely keep watching because I'm going to show you all of the special features of this quad Leica Ultra Vision camera. So I've fully made the switch to the P40 Pro. Despite there being no Google, I just jumped straight in. The Huawei app gallery is obviously not quite the same as the Google Play Store, but it's not quite as bad as you might think, and I've got a full video about that on the way. But this time I'm going to focus on the camera system. The P40 Pro is using the next generation of AI camera. I should say that I'm using pre-release software, and from my experience, I know for a fact that this camera will get better over time, noticeably better through software updates. This time it's working with a 50 megapixel main sensor using the RYYB color filter technology, which gives both the P30 Pro and this device amazing low light performance. There's also the brilliant cine style sensor that we saw on the Mate 30 Pro, a 40 megapixel unit paired with an ultra wide angle lens. This finally gets rid of that jelly effect that we got when we were shooting low light video with the P30 Pro, and it gives us for the first time on P series phone 4K 60 frames per second. The telephoto is a 12 megapixel unit with a 5x optical periscope zoom, very similar to the setup on the P30 Pro with its 5x optical, 10x hybrid and 50x digital. But of course we see an improvement in both the quality and the stabilization at its maximum. Of course we get improved stabilization throughout the zoom range. I find that between 20 and 30 times you get the best results, but of course it's nice to be able to zoom all the way up to 50 times if you need to. But anyway, let's open up the camera app and take a look through the different shooting modes. Visually, the app is the same as any handset running EMUI 10, but of course you will get a few shooting modes unique to the P40 Pro. We'll start with the default photo mode. Across the top there are a few icons, let's go through them. We've got the High Vision app, which is in the top left corner. Tap this and you get a selection of 3 different shooting modes. One is shopping. This will identify whatever you point the camera at and it will find examples online for you to buy. This feature has been in Huawei devices for a while, and over time it has got steadily better and better, and now it's actually pretty good. Next is the instant translation, which again has got much better over time and will translate any text that the camera can see to your desired language. I have used instant translation a few times while traveling. It is a very good feature and it works really well. Next to that is the barcode scanner, but all of these functions can be accessed outside of the camera app as well. If you swipe down in the middle of the home screen, you get a search bar at the top, and to the right hand side of that search bar is a small icon which will take you straight to the High Vision app. The next icon across the top is the AI switch. By default, AI will be turned off, so you won't be able to get the benefit of the P40 Pro's 3rd generation AI camera. This system has come a long way in a short time. A couple of years ago, the AI would make aggressive adjustments to the image and eventually you would just be compelled to turn the thing off. But now I would definitely recommend that the first thing you do is turn it on and leave it on. It automatically adjusts all of the camera settings to produce the best possible shot. If it recognizes faces, it will switch to portrait mode and give you a really nice blurred out background. Or if you're shooting landscapes with blue skies, it will adjust the colors to give you the best results. Of course, there will be occasions when you would want to turn it off. For example, if you were shooting a scene with people but you didn't want to switch to the portrait mode and blur out the background, then of course you would need to turn it off to stop it from recognizing the people and automatically switching. But on the whole, the AI is better than ever and it very, very rarely, if ever, makes a mistake. The next icon along is the flash toggle. There are 3 positions for the flash: on, off or auto. Personally, I like to keep the flash off because the low light abilities are so good that if you try to introduce the flash, it can spoil the tone of the image. But that's just a general rule I have for smartphone cameras. You can use smartphone flashes with good results, but you do need to be within range, and that's quite a short throw generally with these smartphone flashes. If I can get away with not using a flash, I will. Tapping the next icon along will give you a selection of 11 color filters, 2 black and white and 9 in color. Some of them are quite nice and could be quite useful to some. On the far right at the top there is the settings tab, where there is 3 different sections: photo, video and general. Under photo options, you will find options to change the aspect ratio and audio controls, which will allow you to control the shutter release with your voice by either saying cheese or speaking very loudly at the camera. There's also capture smiles, which will automatically take a photo if it detects someone smiling. Under the video settings, we get options to change the resolution, shoot between 720p all the way up to 4K. There's also a mode to shoot in a cinematic 21:9 screen aspect ratio at 1080p. There's also a separate option under the video settings to change the frame rate, with 30 and 60 frames per second selectable, as well as auto mode if you can't be bothered with any of that and you just want the phone to give you the smoothest possible video. The last one in the video settings is the high efficiency video codec option, which will save your videos in a way that takes up 35% less of your storage, which is good if you're shooting a lot of stuff in 4K. However, video shot in this codec might not be compatible with everywhere that you want to share it. Underneath that, we have the general camera settings. Find options here to add the assistive grid, a horizontal level. These are just aids to help you compose your shot. Horizontal level is very useful, especially if you're using a tripod. The next one is timer, which is fairly self-explanatory. Turn it on and it will give you options between 2, 5 and 10 seconds before it will take the shot. Mirror reflection is a feature for the front camera only, and it will only be selectable if you go into the settings whilst using the front camera. Add watermark will just add a Leica branded watermark to your photos. Location tag will also save your geographical location with its image and will let you pinpoint on a map wherever you took your shot. Mute is just mute. And Ultra Snapshot is a function that is in all Huawei phones. It allows you to instantly take a photo whilst the screen is off by double tapping the volume key. Useful if something surprises you and you haven't got time to open up the camera app. Back to the main screen, and the next tab is the moving pictures. This will add more context to your photos, animating it by taking some shots before and after you actually push the shutter. The last icon that you see on the screen is the zoom slider. Tap the dots to zoom between the ultra wide angle, the 1x, the 5x and 10x. Tap and hold and slide forward to go all the way up to 50 times, which by my calculations should work out to be roughly the equivalent of a 1125mm lens. I believe that the markings on the camera system relate to the optical focal length, 18 being the equivalent ultra wide angle, going up to 125mm for the 5x lens. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but if you ever tried to shoot a 1000mm lens handheld, you would find it impossible to keep the image still enough to get a clean shot. The P40 Pro has improved stabilization at its longer focal lengths. Snapping these long shots is still quite tricky, but it is by no means impossible. But let's take a look at the individual shooting modes. We'll start from left to right with aperture mode. In this mode, you can either use the 1x, 2x or 3x lens to get shallow depth of field shots for photo and video. The time of flight sensor comes into play here and lets you simulate a lens with an f-stop number as low as 0.95. Use this mode if you want to get depth of field shots of animals or objects. You could also use it for regular portrait shots of people, but there is a specific portrait mode for that, as the portrait mode will not give you blurred out backgrounds unless it recognizes a face is in the frame. I'll get to the portrait mode in a moment, but before that we've got the night mode. Nowadays, every phone on the market pretty much has its own night mode, which will have varying levels of performance, but Huawei were the first to introduce it, and in the P40 Pro, it offers some manual controls, giving you the ability to change the ISO between 100 and 1600, or the shutter speed between 1/4 of a second and 32 seconds. But of course, both of these functions can be placed on auto, so the AI will take care of everything. The portrait mode offers you 3 focal lengths, the same as an aperture mode, the 1x, the 2x and 3x, but it also offers beautifying effects, not overcomplicating it and just giving you one slider to increase or decrease your beautifying look. Under effects, you get options to change the shape of the bokeh balls in the background. You will notice it more if you have highlights in the background that are blurred out by the portrait effect. These will change shapes to either hearts, circles, swirls or discs, but we also get the other portrait mode effects that we're used to seeing in Huawei phones like photo booth, folding blinds, pop and stage lighting. Next is the default shooting mode. We've been through all the tabs at the top, but this is best for general picture taking. With video, we get the beauty slider tab as well as the zoom slider. You can shoot video with the ultra wide angle camera and zoom all the way up to 10 times. Much happier with the quality of the video in this handset than other Huawei phones. The P30 Pro would perform really well in good conditions, but that image would suffer from that jelly effect when the lights got low. They've definitely solved this problem this time around, and now the low light performance is extremely good. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, we get 4K at 60 frames per second, something that really should have been available in the P30 Pro, but it's great that we finally are seeing it in this handset. Moving on, we have the Pro mode, which is extremely good, giving us an ISO range between 50 and an incredible 409,600. I literally don't know of any other camera that has such a high ISO that is not a night vision camera. And what is really impressive about this is that even at those super high ISO, noise is still kept to a relative minimum. These ISO values are selectable with the Pro mode, although if you go beyond 6400, the AI will take over and you lose control of all the other manual controls. But keep it below that and you get a shutter speed between 1/4000th of a second and 30 seconds, as well as exposure compensation, manual focus controls, white balance and metering. There's also a couple of extra icons at the top when using Pro mode. One will allow you to toggle RAW photos on or off. A RAW image is just an unprocessed image. It's giving you all the data that the sensor's captured. It hasn't compressed any of it into a JPEG. It's giving you every piece of information that the sensor has. If you're looking to edit your photos yourself, then you want to be shooting in RAW. There's also a switch to control the autofocus assist light. This will give you better autofocus in low light conditions by turning on the flash to help focus and then turning it off again before it takes the shot. Finally, at the top, there's also a switch to shoot at 50 megapixels. I think this is really nice to have it within the Pro mode. When you shoot in normal photo mode, you will not get 50 megapixel images. The P40 Pro will combine the pixels down to give you a lower resolution image, but with greatly enhanced sharpness. If you choose to shoot at 50 megapixels within the normal photo mode, then it will turn off all of the assists. So it kind of makes sense to put this option within Pro mode because you don't get any of the AI assists in Pro either. It is definitely encouraging me to use Pro mode more with that high resolution sensor, allowing you to crop in really far into your photos and still have a sharp image. What's also really nice about the P40 Pro's Pro mode is that you can use video with it as well. It gives you control of ISO, exposure compensation, metering, white balance, and of course the focus control, but it doesn't give you control of the shutter speed. Maybe that will be in the next generation. Let's move on to the More tab, and we get an additional 12 shooting modes here. We'll start at the top with slow motion. Now this for the P40 series and the Mate 30 series as well. Huawei have equipped it with the ability to record a 256 times slowdown. This is the equivalent of video shot at 7,680 frames per second. There are also options for a 4 times slowdown at 120 frames per second and a 32 times slowdown for the more conventional 960 frames per second footage. Results are just jaw-dropping. Next is Panorama. Tap on the shutter and move the camera in the direction of the arrow to capture a 360-degree view of your surroundings, the standard panorama that we are used to finding in most smartphones. The next one is slowly becoming my favorite mode to shoot with, and that's monochrome. This is a black and white shooting mode, but it gives you the option to shoot between the normal photo mode, aperture mode, portrait and pro mode. I'm really enjoying using pro mode in black and white with the high-res 50 megapixel sensor turned on. I also really like the black and white portrait shots that you get. AR lens is next to that, and you will be familiar with this mode if you've owned a Huawei phone before, and unfortunately it doesn't seem to have changed much over the years. It just tracks your eyes and your mouth movements and places a funny character head on your shoulders to record a video with. In the top right hand corner there is a GIF switch. Turn it on to turn your creation into a shareable GIF. Literally minutes of fun, but I am using pre-release software, so I hope that they may add a few more characters to that mode. Light painting is an easy way to get the camera to capture long exposure shots, so you can get those traffic trails or star trails without having to work out how long your exposure is or what aperture you need or your shutter speed or any of that. You just need a tripod for these modes, and it is definitely worth investing in one if you are looking to get a P40 Pro. HDR is the next one and is selectable here. This will make sure that your photos are exposed evenly across the frame, giving you more detail in the sky as well as in the shaded areas. Although HDR will automatically be applied if you have the AI turned on. If you like to use the camera without the AI, but you still want the use of the HDR for photos, then you can select it here. Time-lapse is a way of recording video that appears to be in fast forward by taking lots of exposure at regular time intervals. It's great for things like clouds or really slow moving things like insects. You get options to choose the speed of your video up to 1800 times normal speed, as well as the length of recording up to 300 minutes or infinity. There's also a nice option here that gives you the use of manual controls with your time-lapse as well. I think that's a nice touch. Stickers are a selection of editable stickers to convey your mood or your location that can be overlaid on your photos. Documents will find any text that might be in your photos and highlight it by cropping the rest of the image out. Underwater is a mode for use with the Bluetooth underwater cases for the Huawei P40 Pro, so really not much use unless you actually own the housing. Dual View is a video mode that will allow you to shoot 1080p with two different focal lengths simultaneously, giving you a split screen of the wide angle view as well as a telephoto image. Right now, the focal lengths supported are the 2x right up to 10x zoom. But I think that could change. As I mentioned before, this camera is set to get better and better over time. For example, the P30 Pro can also shoot dual video in this mode, but it will go up to a 15x zoom. So I do expect the final release software to probably push that zoom range a little bit up. And finally, under the More tab, we have the high res mode, which is where you can make use of that 50 megapixel sensor. And rather than produce a lower resolution shot through pixel binning, it will just give you the full 50 megapixel images. I actually really like shooting with this mode. I recommend if you are shooting in pro mode with a high resolution sensor, try and keep the shutter speed as high as you can, even if that means bumping up the ISO a little bit more. It can be tricky to get sharp shots when you're using so many megapixels. Another reason that you should invest in a tripod if you are serious about smartphone photography. And that is the beauty of this handset. If you are serious about taking photos, if you take your time, plan out your shots and use a tripod, then you really can get professional level shots that you just would not believe were taken on a phone. I'm really enjoying using the Leica Ultra Vision camera system. It's such a shame that we're all on lockdown at the moment. I can't really get out to take the shots that I want to, but nevertheless, this is still a lot of fun to use. Working on a full review of the camera where I will show you much more samples in different situations and give you a final verdict about what I think about the P40 Pro's new camera system. Of course, the P40 Pro will be available on the Direct Mobile's website as soon as it's released, and it is the best place to look as you'll be able to compare all of the available deals with all of the different networks right there on the one website. Direct Mobiles are there to find you the best possible price. You can find their link in the description below or just search directmobiles.co.uk. And if you made it this far into the video, then thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed it, why not leave me a like, leave me a comment, and of course subscribe for more Btekt. I'll leave you with a little montage of some of the photos and videos that I've got over the last few days with the Huawei P40 Pro. I hope you enjoyed my camera guide. Follow me on social media. I'm David, this is Btekt.